Hello everyone. In this video we will be studying something about the process control. So what is a process? Each of the user when want to execute something in the system, then it will initiate a process. A user will create a process to execute any of the tasks. First we have to create the processes. So today we are going to see in this video how the process can be controlled and what are the different attributes of the process. So firstly we are starting with the process identifier. So what is this process identifier? This is an integer number which is very unique and it is given to each of the processes. So it is a unique ID which is given to each of the processes. Each process will be having the different process IDs and it is a non-negative integer. It is a non-negative integer. It can take only the positive values and a 0. So this is a process identifier. For referring to a process each and every time, this process ID is used. So process ID is used for uniquely identifying a process. See here, unique process IDs process IDs are unique, but they can be reused whenever a process is terminating. So once a process terminates, its process ID whatever is given to it, that can be reused. How it can be reused is, so whenever new processes are created, those old process IDs can be assigned to the new process IDs. Next question is, here there may be some confusions because old ID and new ID new process both are matching. So whenever you want to use a process ID, you refer to it. You may be want to referring to the old one, but still the new process will be running, or vice versa. If you want to refer to a new process and if the process ID is reassigned, then that process ID may be related to the old process ID. This confusion is happening. This is same as that of your mobile number. When you are discarding the SIM and not using for 3 months, that same number will be assigned to some another user. Is it not? But when some of your friends or relatives try calling that number will be connected, but the user will be changed. Is it not? But the user will be changed, it will be assigned to some another user. Same thing happens here also. So to avoid that, what we are doing, we are using some algorithms here. We are using some algorithms in such a way that, see, now there are consider there are two processes, process number 1 P1 and P2. Suppose now P1 is terminating. Okay, P1 terminates, P2 also terminates. New process comes in, that is P3. Now which is more older in this? P1 is more older. So instead of assigning the process ID of P2, that algorithm will take the older ID. Such algorithms are formed to eliminate the confusions. So to eliminate the confusions, like the process IDs which are related to the old processes which are terminated long back, those process IDs will be assigned to the new process IDs. So in general, process IDs are uniquely used for identifying each of the processes. Then apart from these unique process IDs, there are few process IDs which are common, whose information differs from different computers, but still they will be used with a common meaning. Like for example, process ID 0. So for process ID 0, it relates to the processor scheduler process. What is a scheduler? Scheduler means it is just like the one who is creating a timetable for processes, like which process to execute first. After termination of the first process, which process should be executing next, which process is going to interrupt, which should be terminated, which should be suspended, which should start running. So all this timetable who is forming, that process is called as a scheduler. So this scheduler is always, many times it is the CPU itself. So the process ID 0, it refers to the scheduler, or it refers to the swapper. in some systems. If the process id is 1, sometimes it refers to the init process. What is this init process? We have already studied this one. See, when a system is turned on, first the bootstrap program will start running. Bootstrap program, what it will do, it will locate and load the operating system from the secondary memory to the primary memory. Once that bootstrap program is running and the operating system is brought into the memory, then another function called as the init process or the init function will start executing. This init function, it will do the initialization. Okay, init means initialization of different registers or different memory locations. So that is done. System dependent initialization. System dependent means what? So each system will be having different types of initialization, is it not? So this init process will start initialization of the system. So whenever the process id is taken as 1, it is sometimes referring to the init process. So like this, there will be special process ids whose meaning remains fixed into it. Apart from this, there are different functions which are used to get the identifiers. So the first function, see, PID underscore T is the data type. PID underscore T is the data type. Get PID. Get PID means what? It is returning the process ID of the calling function. It is returning the process ID of the calling function. The process who is calling this PID. The process who is calling this, suppose I am running a main function. So in the main function, if I am using get PID, so it is getting me the PID of the process in which main function is running. So the function or the process which calls this get PID, which calls this one, that is going to return the system, the Unix file system will return its process ID. Next, get PID. Get PID. This extra P refers to the parent there. Okay. So it is referring the parent process ID of the calling function. Suppose I am in process number 1 and I am calling this function get PID. Who is the parent of process 1? That ID will be returned if I am using this function get PID. Okay. Next one, get UID. It gets the real user ID of the calling process. Real user ID means it refers to one who has created that process, one who has created that file. That is referring to this real user ID. So the real user of who has created that process, its ID will be returned by using get UID. Next, get EUID. Get E means E is here referring to the effective. E is referring to the effective user ID. Who is this effective user? Effective user is used for getting the permission. It is to determine the file permission. To determine the file permission, we are having the effective user ID. Next, we are having the get GID. Get GID means the real group ID here. So each of the process will be belonging to some groups. So get GID means it is referring to some group. That group ID will be returned when we are calling this function. Next, get EGID. Get EGID means it is returning the effective group ID. Effective means what? Again, the one who is assigning the file permission. The one who is assigning the file permission to get the group or the user of that process, we are going to use this get EGID. So this is what is happening in these different types of function. So next we will be studying about something called as a fork. So what is this fork? Fork is always used for creating a child process. See, one process can create another process. How it can create another process? Using the system call called as a fork system call. Fork is used to create a new process. That newly created process is called as a child process. What is its syntax? Its syntax is hash include unistd.h PID fork void. Means just if you call this function fork, if you call this function fork, then a process will be created. What is this PID underscore T? It is a return data type. What is the return data type of a fork? Next question is, what is the return value of a fork? If the fork is called once, if the fork is called, see the function is called once but it returns twice. What it returns in these two times? See that it returns the return value. It returns the return value of the child and also the return value of the parent. What is the return value of the child process? The return value of the child process is 0. The return value of the child process is 0 and the return value of the parent is the process ID of the new child. Okay, whatever the new child is created, its process ID will be returned by the parent and the child is returning only the 0. The child is returning only the 0 and the parent is returning the process ID of the new child. Why it is returning 0? Because it is having only one parent. Because the child is having only one parent, so it is returning 0. Why the parent is returning? Why the parent is returning the process ID of the new child? A parent can have many children, is it not? A parent, I am speaking in terms of processes, okay? A parent process can have many children processes, but a child can have a single parent. A child can have a single parent. Since the child is having only a single parent, it is returning the 0 and a parent is returning the process ID of the new child because it can have more than one child. So that is what 2 times, if we are calling this fork once, it is returning 2 times. Once it is returning the ID of the child and next it is returning the ID of the newly created child. Okay. Then next, whenever a child is created, what are its resources given to it? What are the resources given to it? So one resource which is given to it is just a copy of everything of the parent. Copy of everything of the parent. See, it is returning the child gets the copy of parents data space of everything, okay? Like it gets the data space, it gets the heap, it gets the stack. It is getting the copy. Okay, it is not sharing these things. It is not sharing these all things with the parent. It is getting the copy of this one. Child is having its own copy, parent is also is having its own copy. The parent and child do not share these portions of the memory. They are having the different copies. Suppose now a child wants to modify some page which is belonging to parent also, or a parent want to modify a page which is belonging to a child also. Instead of interfering with each other pages, they are using something called as copy on write. It is called as copy on write. What is this copy on write now? Copy on write means, suppose now this is a parent, okay, this is a parent and this is a child. Suppose parent wants some this one, parent wants some page of child. It will bring that page in the memory. It will create a duplicate page. See, this is P. It will create a duplicate P here. Then it is going to modify this space. It is not going to modify the child page. It is going to modify the copied page here. So it is called as copy on write. Copy on write means it is copying a page and modifying the copied. Original pages remain as it is. The copied pages will be modified. Later, when the child is terminating or the parent is terminating, if there is any modification, those pages will be updated respectively in the child space or in the parent space. Getting what is copy on write? Suppose each of them, parent and child, if they want to modify the pages, they want to modify the pages or some data which is present in the parent or the child, then a copy of that is created in the memory and that copied page is modified. And finally, when any of them is terminating, if there is any modification done, that time the updating will be done in the parent or the child respectively. This is what is called as copy on write. Original pages are not directly modified. So this is how the fork function is working. So here we are having a small program here. So very small and easy program. We can go through it here quickly. What we are going to do here is sorry. So we are having int see, before the main function we are having here, so it is a global variable. So global variable is assigned a value 6. Then we are having a character buffer. To this character buffer initialization, what it is done, a write to std out, standard out /n, means what, this is assigned in this buffer. Next we are having the main function. So in the main function we are declaring two variables, variable and PID. These are the local or the automatic variables. Then the variable value is assigned to 88. Next, if write std file number buffer size buffer -1 not equal to -1, something is given here. What this is doing is, it is checking whether the whatever you are going to write, first you are going to write in a buffer, that buffer will be transferred to the standard output, that is the screen. So if the buffer size is not enough to store the data, that time you are going to write here error, std out file number buffer size buffer -1 not equal to buffer. See, if the size of whatever you want to write the data, it is not equal to the size of the buffer, then you are going to write the error. Otherwise what you are going to do, you are going to do here before fork. Now till now here we have not called the fork function. So here the main parent only is executing till here. Next, now see here, PID is equal to fork we are calling a function. So when we are calling a fork function here, a child process is created. See, I told you who is a child? A child is one whose ID is returned to be 0. If it is less than 0, it means, if it is less than 0 means what? A negative. A process or a child cannot have a negative process ID. If a negative ID is given, it means that fork cannot create the child. It has not created a child due to some reasons. We will see that later. So if it is not creating a child, if a child process is not created using this fork function, that time fork error will be printed. If the ID, see here, if PID is less than 0, less than 0 means negative. If it is less than 0, then what? A error will be printed. Otherwise, else if PID equals 0. See, when it is equal to 0, it means that child process is executing. When the child process is executing, we are doing some modifications to the variables. What variables? One is global variable and another is local variable, that is VAR. Global variable value was 6, here we are plus means it will become 7. Variable value was 88, plus means it will become 89. Then we are closing this one. If the PID is not 0, if it is something else, means what? It is a parent. If it is a parent, then sleep means do nothing, delay, sleep for 2 seconds, delay, it is a parent. Okay, it is a parent. Parent is not doing anything. If a fork is done and a child is created, then I want the child to do these two functions. Parent should not do anything. A child is doing this function. Let's see the finally what we are printing. We are printing the process ID. We are printing the global variable, local variable, process ID, get PID. What does get PID get you? It gets you the PID of the calling function. Who is calling here? Who is calling? The main function is calling this get PID, is it not? So it should return the PID of the calling function. Then instead of this global %d, this global value whatever we are updating here, that will be printed, and this where means whatever we are updating here, that will be printed. So now see here, ./a.out we are having. So when we are having ./a.out, so what is the first thing which will be written? See here only I am initializing first in the global area. So a write to std out will be printed as it is. Yes, a write to std out will be printed as it is. Next what we are having? Before fork. See, this function is not true. This function is not true, so error will not be printed. Directly this printf before fork. So before fork is printed. Then then what it is having? So here we are having the logic. Okay, now we have created a child successfully. So when a child is created successfully, it should modify this one. So when it is modifying this one, let us see what are the values will be printed. So first the PID will be printed. What is the PID? 430. This is the PID of the process which is calling this get PID. Next we are having global. See, global value was 6 here. We are incrementing, so 7 will be printed. So next we are having the where. This where value is 88 here. We are incrementing, so 89 will be printing. See, child variables were changed. Child variables will be changed. Next time when you are executing, so parents copy, whatever parents copy is there, that will be printed as it is. Global variable is 6. The where value is 88, so this will be printed as it is. So like this, a child can be executing first or a parent can be executing first. There is no rule that if a child is created, child only should execute first, or there is no rule parent only should execute first. According to the situation, the things will happen. So next we are going to see about the file sharing of a fork. See, whenever you are sharing creating a process, a new child, whenever you are creating, what about the file sharing here? So we are using the offsets or we are using the descriptor. See, duplicate function had been called for each descriptor. Means whenever a process is creating a new child using the fork function, that time the descriptors of the files also will be duplicated. What do you mean by descriptors? These descriptors are the reference which are used for referring to the files. These are the references which are used for referring to the files here. So now let us see one example here. It is important that the parent and the child share the same file offset. Same file offset means, see now here we are having a output. So when we are having a output, we are having a parent and also we are having a child. So this is the cursor here. So this parent and the child are sharing the same offset or sharing the same cursor. First let us consider now child is going to print. So when child is going to print some values on the standard output, when the child is going to print for some values on the output, it is using the same offset and it is printing some values. Okay, it is printing 3 lines. So after printing, it is stopped. Means it has finished its work, so it has stopped. Once it has stopped, next the control is transferred to parent here. When the control is transferred to parent, what parent will do is, it is using the offset which is used by the child. Now here it is printed 3 lines. So whatever parent wants to print, that is appended to the child data. So same offset is not shared. See, initially the offset was at the beginning, but the child has used and the offset has come here. So the parent was initially the parent was having also the same offset, child was also having the same offset. But now after the child is printing this one, the offset has come to this position. So the offset will be updated to the parent. Parent is using the new updated offset and the data will be appended here. Like this. File sharing, they are using the same descriptors. Once a parent or a child prints something, after it's finishing printing or after it's finishing updating the data, the values of these descriptors or the values of these offsets will be updated. Then the remaining one, it may be a parent or it may be a child, those will take and use the same offset and start appending the data. They are not starting from first again. If they start from first, this data will be overwritten. So to avoid this one, we are going to append. So this is the thing which is followed with the file sharing when we are going for a fork. Next topic is, see, there are 2 possible ways whenever you are creating a child process. So what happens is, when a child, who should execute? The parent should execute or the child should execute, or both should be waiting, is the next question. So there are 2 normal cases for handling the descriptors of a fork. Okay, what are these different ways? So the first one is the parent waits for the child to complete. As I told you in the previous example here, so I was telling you about the example here. In this one, the parent is waiting up till the child is finishing. So this is pertaining to this example here. What it is doing? It is telling the parent waits for the child to complete. The first child will complete its work. In this case, parent does not need to do anything with the descriptors. It simply keeps on waiting until the child has completed its work. Next is both the parent and the child go on their own ways. Means parent is printing to some another output, and the child also is printing to some another output area. One may be using the standard output, another may be using a file, or another may be using a buffer. Okay, so when one is using a buffer, when one is using a standard output, other also, if it wants to use the standard output, what it should do is whatever data it wants to print, that data will be kept into the buffer. Once the child finishes, that buffer data will be then transferred to the standard output. So this is how the things happen when both of them are wanting to print to the same standard output. So apart from these two different ways of handling, there are different properties that the parent gives to the child. Okay, besides the open files, there are numerous other properties of the parents that are inherited by the child. What are those? Real user id, effective user id, group user id, and effective. These all are inherited, means what? They are given, copied, duplicated. So they are given to the children. Whenever the child is created, it is taking all these data. It is taking the group id, it is taking the process id, it is taking session id, it is taking the session id, it is taking the controlling terminal, like this. All these are given to the child. Now this here is a small difference between the parent and the child. What are the differences? The return value from the fork. See, the child is returning what? The child is returning a 0, and the parent is returning the PID of the child. So this is the difference. Next, the process IDs are different. The process ID of the parent and the process ID of the child are different. Two processes have different processes ID. Parent process ID of the child is the parent. What it is saying? See, the parent process ID of the child. So now this is the parent. Next comes the child here. What they are saying? The parent process ID of the child. Who is the parent? The parent process ID of the child is the parent process ID. The parent process ID of the parent. This parent is also having a parent. So the parent's parent process ID does not change. It remains the same. This is the parent. It is having this child. This is having this child. So the child's parent, parent's parent. Please try to understand. This is the child, child's parent, parent's parent. The child's parent ID is the process ID of its parent. The parent's parent ID is this one which does not change. Okay. Next, what we are having? The child's user time, updating time, cut time, creating time. These times are changed, different, means different from the user. Next, file locks set by the parents are not inherited by the child. File locks. See, the files will be locked for only the read permission, write permission will be given. Those permission will not be inherited by the child. Only these other properties like the address area, stack, and file descriptors, only these will be inherited. But the permissions which are given to the files, that are not inherited. Pending alarms are cleared for the child. Pending alarms means if a process is creating a new child and the parent process, it is waiting for some another file to be created, such type of data is not passed to the child. So like this, different there are differences between the parent and the child. Then why we are using fork? So we can use the fork in two situations. One is when a process wants to duplicate itself, means when you want to create a child process, so that you are executing, you are having a big program, you want to execute some part, and the child also is required to some execute some part. So that time you want to do the duplication of the process. In that time we are going to use a fork. So when a process wants to duplicate itself, so why a process wants to duplicate itself? Because it wants to execute the different sections of the code at the same time. Okay, so this is a code here. When this is a code, first section will be executed by a parent, second section will be executed by a child. So when you want to do such things, that time you have to create a duplicate of this complete process. So when you want to create a duplicate of complete process, we are going for the fork system call or a fork function. So next, when a process wants to execute different programs, now let us take example of a client server. So when you are taking the example of a client server, a client is giving some request. Okay, when a client is giving some request, that request should be served, means it should go to some server, it should bring the data, means whatever request is got, this request is taken and given to some another process. This process finds the data, gives back to the client. So this will become a child. We want to use a fork here. Fork system call means it is creating this new process, it is going on bringing the data which is required by the client. So in such cases, when you want to execute the different programs, parent is accepting the request from the clients, then child is getting the data for the parent. Both of them are executing different things, is it not? When both the processes want to execute the different programs, that times also this fork function is used. Next we will be studying about the vfork function. So what is this vfork function? See, it is same as that of the fork function. So but the only difference is here, in the fork function, when a new process is created, means when a child process is created, directly it is moved to the duplicate space. Directly that process is moved to the duplicated space, means copy is created, no? So the process is moving to its duplicated or the copied address space. It is using its copied stack or address space or the heap. Directly it is using. But in the vfork, what it is using? Till the child process starts executing. When it starts executing only when exec function is called. Only when the exec function is called, that time it starts executing. So till the exec function is called, in this vfork function, I am speaking about in vfork function. In the vfork function, till the exec function is called by the child, it is present in the address space of the parent itself. Okay, it either calls exec or exit, the child runs in the address space of the parent itself. Instead, while the child is running and until it calls the exec or exit, till the child is going to do some work, it is present in the parent's address space only. But this does not happen in the fork function. In the fork function, the child directly is shifted to the duplicated or the copied address space. It is nowhere attached with the parent. But in the vfork function, till the child is executing something by this exec system call, or till it's calling some exit, suddenly it wants to abort, till it calls exit, it is running in the space of the parent itself. So this is the main difference between the fork function and vfork function.